Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Recruiting Breakdown brought to you by Texas Allstate Insurance Agent Mark Saunders. I'm Blake Munroe, where I'm joined by Bobby Burton. And Bobby, lots of recruiting news going on. I mean, it's just wild right now. Let's start with the latest news on everything you're hearing, and let's start with Anthony Smith. How about that?
Yeah, unbelievable news coming out of Jasper, Texas. The linebacker that Texas has been recruiting since the get-go out of Jasper, originally committed to Texas A&M, Blake, but earlier on Monday night into Tuesday morning, it was reported by Texags First that Smith is likely to flip to Texas. This is a guy that's very, very good, Blake, a good player. Longhorns have been on him all along. Pete Kwiatkowski recruiting him for Texas in Jeff Choate's absence. Smith expected to visit Texas this weekend, according to Jerry Hamilton of On3. It looks like to me, guys, that Texas is in line to do exactly what Steve Sarkisian has done every single year he's been in Austin, and that is hang around the rim, recruit through the whistle, whatever term you want to use, and end up with a guy that everybody wanted, and he kind of flips them at the last minute. It's just tremendous. It really, really is. And I think it speaks to the never say die attitude of Steve Sarkisian and the staff. Really, the other big news for me, Blake, is that just about everything is going in the Longhorns' direction right now. Yeah. Kobe Black, the talented cornerback out of Waco Connolly, he makes his announcement tomorrow at 4:30. I believe you're going to be there on site to talk about that. But I just think that, we look at it, and all in all, whether it's Anthony Smith or Xavier Filsaime or Hunter Andrews or a number of guys in the portal, a lot of things going in the Longhorns' direction as well. Another note that needs to be said in the latest news, Ryan Williams, the nation's #1 ranked wide receiver in the class of 2025, he's out of Saraland High School in Alabama. The young man is expected to now reclassify, or says he's going to reclassify to 2024. What that means to me is now he says also he's going to visit Texas. So that means Texas has a spot that they're actually looking for another, possibly another high school receiver in this class. He is too good to pass up if you can get him. He's committed to Alabama currently, though, also looking at Auburn, where his dad played. But certainly with KJ Lacey in the fold for the Longhorns at this time, that means that Williams in Texas have a real possibility there. Some other news and notes, Xavier Filsaime, by the way, he is getting an in-home visit today or tomorrow from the University of Florida. Blake Gideon expected in on Friday. He's the guy that Texas has really pinpointed at safety at this time. He's out of McKinney High School. Then you have Aaron Hampton. Hampton, like Filsaime, is a guy that is still taking visits from other schools, except Hampton is committed to Texas. Former Notre Dame quarterback, current Alabama defense or offensive coordinator Tommy Rees will be in Dangerfield today, meeting with Aaron Hampton. So that's a lot of the biggest news right now. Obviously, with 8 days to go till National Signing Day, it's just going to continue on right now until, we're going to be running around like a chicken with our head cut off, basically trying to break news. Lots of other stuff, home visits, all this other stuff going on right now, Blake.
That's right. Talking about home visits and coaches are out on the road. Even Sark, as they're gearing up for the college football playoff, still got to recruit, and that's exactly what they're doing. What are you hearing about the coaches on the road, Bobby?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sark was in Florida yesterday, along with Jeff Banks, was down seeing the kicker from St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Michael Kern. Sark went to go see Jarrett Gibson, the running back out of the Gainesville area, plays at IMG Academy. Gibson is expected to make an unofficial visit to Texas this weekend, Blake. So there's that. And then also you had DeAndre Robinson, the big defensive tackle out of Orlando Jones. He shut down his recruitment. He is the one that Texas cannot let get away. Right now, it feels really comfortable where Texas is at, but we'll see where that goes. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on there. That is just such a big recruit for Texas because they need that interior defensive line. Not only him as a commitment right now, but Alex January. He is committed. He's getting a visit from Sark today, along with Colin Simmons, the other young man from Duncanville that are committed to Texas. January, a defensive tackle. Simmons, of course, the state's #1 ranked prospect, I believe, overall, an edge prospect that's committed to Texas. Duncanville, of course, plays North Shore in the state championship game this weekend. So all of that going on. Sark at Duncanville today. Then he goes down to Houston to see Nate Kibble, Trey Owens, Jordan Washington, that trio. Owens, obviously, the quarterback, Kibble, the offensive lineman from Atascocita, and then Washington, the big tight end that has had such a good year and also looks like a really stellar prospect, kind of an under-the-radar guy to start the season, but now considered one of the nation's top tight ends, actually. So you look at that group, then he's all over the place. Probably the next thing that I need to say is that he's even going in-home in Lafayette, Louisiana on Friday. And he's expected to go home, of course, with Melvin Hills, who's the other defensive tackle committed in this class, Blake, but he's also going in-home potentially with Dominic McKinley, the defensive tackle that chose Texas A&M over Texas and Oklahoma. Elijah Robinson, the defensive line coach for A&M, that is the interim head coach, has moved on to Syracuse for next year, and he is also recruiting McKinley to go with him to Syracuse as opposed to A&M. It's a lot. This is a lot of stuff. Sark then comes home, obviously, on Saturday and Sunday. The Longhorns going to host a lot of official visitors. Hey, Blake, before we get to the next thing, and I want to say thank you to our sponsor for the recruiting breakdown. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some good news. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you need to help keep tabs on protection for all your stuff. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum and big Longhorn fan Mark Saunders. Give him a call at 512-218-8571.
All right, I want to thank them. And Bobby, as you said, Coach is obviously busy out on the road, and I don't want to say they're going to get R&R this weekend, but maybe they'll get to take a little bit of a breath as they'll be closer to home as they're hosting many visitors this weekend. And who are you hearing that's going to be on campus?
Well, here's the deal. Maybe they get to sleep in their own bed at night, but I don't think they get to take a break, right? I mean, you look at it right now, they've got probably 3 official visitors from the high school ranks, may have more in the portal that we'll talk about in a second. But Xavier Filsamy out of McKinney, who's committed to Florida, is expected to visit this weekend. Anthony Smith, expected to visit Texas this weekend. That's a young man out of Jasper. Hunter Andrews, an athlete, he plays running back, but could be a linebacker. He's committed to Utah. He's out of Magnolia in the Houston area. Mm-hmm. He's expected to visit this weekend. So they've got at least 3 high school guys currently expected. It may end up only being 2 at this point. But my point on that is then you look at the list of committed guys already expected to be on here. I mean, Brandon Baker, Ryan Wingo, Daniel Cruz, Jordan Johnson-Rebel, Melvin Hills, Wardell Mack. The list goes on and on. They're going to have 10-plus committed recruits on campus, as well as those guys. And they're going to have guys, I think, in from the transfer portal as well.
Yeah, and you got to think having those committed players on campus will only help their recruiting efforts, one would imagine, for sure. Well, speaking of the transfer portal, I mean, it's one of the craziest times of the year right now with a ton of kids entering. What's the latest on the transfer portal, and what are you expecting to hear over these next few days?
Well, I think that the transfer portal is open for business. I mean, there's more than 3,000 kids across the country. I say kids, they're young adults. 3,000 young adults that are now in the transfer portal. I believe 7 of them from the University of Texas. Isaiah Nayor, the transfer from Wyoming, is the latest Longhorn in there. My take on it, Blake, is pretty interesting in that, Texas doesn't know how many spots they have to give yet because they're waiting to see if there are other dominoes to fall after the college football playoff. So there still may be more than 7, which is expected, right? That being said, Texas has to figure out a way to continue on. Another one we've heard is obviously Andrew Makuba. He is out of Austin LBJ. He was a pupil of Jamal Finner, the director of high school relations for the University of Texas. He was the high school coach at Austin LBJ when Makuba was out at Austin LBJ. Makuba has spent the last 3 years at Clemson. The last 2, Blake, he's been a nickelback. Texas is looking for someone to potentially join the ranks at nickel to add some adults to the room there. Right now, only Jalen Gilbo really has a lot of experience. Austin Jordan's been injured, does not have a ton of experience. And then Jelani McDonald, obviously this year was just a true freshman, even though he has a load of talent. Mm-hmm. You bring all that together, Blake, and what's going on is you're going to see Texas still, we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, if not months, still 2 wide receivers, unless they get a high school one. Okay. Still looking for a tight end, right? They got to find a tight end. I don't know, other than Holden Stays, I don't know that they've decided on another guy at tight end to really go after, to be fair. And then you look at the other positions of need. Edge, they brought in Trey Moore. He is a edge linebacker more. He's a buck in that group, I think, a boundary guy. He had 14 sacks this past year at UTSA for Jeff Traylor. He is visiting Ohio State this weekend. He's got home visits with Alabama today, had one with Ohio State last night, was at Texas over the weekend. I expect him to make a decision somewhere before Christmas, before the new year, so that he can actually figure out, this is where I'm going. This is what I need to do. He's not waiting until mid-January to make these decisions. So there's that to consider. Also, defensive tackle still remains a possibility. I mean, don't forget that. But the biggest piece for me as we talk about incoming transfer guys, and we've mentioned a couple of potential guys, one that's already visited and a couple of potential visitors, it still resonates with me, the conversation I had with someone last week. Texas is looking for guys that are truly additive, not, when I wrote this article on Inside Texas, I did it with a distinct purpose. They are looking to add specific guys, right, to the roster. They don't need just dudes. They want guys that make sense for them. They don't need to bring in another defensive tackle if he's not going to really be a guy. They don't need just a wide receiver to be there. They want to get somebody that really can change, the trajectory of things. And so Texas is in a very, very rare situation right now, in my opinion, where they can be a little selective. They're so hot on the recruiting trail that carries over into the portal. When someone like Adonai Mitchell has the year he's had at Texas, that only reinforces Sark's sales pitch, to be honest. When you see a team go from 5 wins to 8 wins to 12, that matters. All of these things. And when we were on Coffee and Football this morning, I talked about it. You add all of them up, Blake, and it's just one thing after another heading in the Longhorns' favor. I'm not sure. While the 2022 class and 2023 class were both top 5 classes for Texas, I don't know that I've ever seen Texas in the last dozen years with this much momentum overall.
Agreed.
Along with the Aggies kind of, I don't want to say cratering, but kind of dysfunctional, I say is the best word. Combining those things together from a recruiting perspective for Texas leads me to believe that the Longhorns they're in the catbird seat. That's kind of what I'm saying. When's the last time Texas has been in the catbird seat?
Yeah.
That's really where what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's crazy to me the how selective they are being with the portal. Like year one, it was more like just warm bodies, whereas now it's difference makers. So it quite the change over the past few years. Bobby, another change is that I'm kind of blown away about is the number of early enrollees that are coming in to Austin here soon. And man, I can't remember a class where there's this many. Tell folks about that.
It's definitely going to be a Texas record, Blake. As of right now, there are 14 early enrollees for the University of Texas, 14 out of 20. So Kobe Black commits tomorrow. as expected. That would be 15 of 21. Then listen to this. Xavier Filsaime is a midtermer. Anthony Smith is a midtermer. Solomon Williams, who we didn't even talk about, defensive end out of Tampa, he's a midtermer. They can theoretically go up to 24 commitments in this campaign. I still think they're going to be 21 to 23 was the original number. It may go 23, 24 now, given the late surge here, unless some guys peel off. I just look, you could literally be 18 of 24 that are midtermers. That's just, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's almost 75% of your guys. And it reminds me of what Nick Saban did. I think it was either 2015 or 2016, when he had like 15 guys that were midtermers. And that team went on to win a national championship. Now he's won national championships other ways too. But you got to understand that if you don't watch out here, and Texas is just going to be on you pretty quick in the SEC. The SEC schedules come out tonight. That's going to be fun to watch for everybody. But look, I think Texas still has work to do with their roster, because they're really only 3 recruiting classes deep, not 4. Mm-hmm. But the further they get along and get these guys 6 months worth of development as opposed to 0. Think about where Derek Williams might be right now if he had been at Texas from January on instead of coming in June.
Yeah.
Well, could he have been the starting safety at Texas to start the season? Maybe. So you're getting a chance at guys like that. Christian Clark is a running back. Trey Owens, Ryan Wingo at receiver. I think very important. Daniel Cruz and Brandon Baker on the offensive line. DeAndre Robinson, Alex January on the defensive line. Colin Simmons, midtermer. Zena Umeozulu, midtermer. Wardell Mack, midtermer. Jordan Johnson-Rubel, midtermer. I think you look at it and it's just one after the other. This is how you build a juggernaut. I'm just telling you guys. I've been covering recruiting for a long time and watching it transpire for a long time. This is how juggernauts are built. Period. End of story.
No doubt about it. All right, Bobby, one more time, give us the lowdown on Mark Saunders and Allstate.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you seeing your insurance prices rise? Well, Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is seeing ways to help you save. Without Mark's 35 years of experience, you might miss a few, from starting new policies with proper coverages and bundling discounts, or even driving safely. Mark knows how to maximize your savings. So call Texas alum and proud Longhorn fan, I'll say, Mark Saunders today at 512-218-8571 to see how you can start saving with Allstate. Mark says he has a golden rule. He treats his clients with the same care and concern he would want to be treated. I love that. Prices vary based on how you buy, subject to terms and conditions and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Allstate Vehicle and Property Insurance Company and affiliates out of Northbrook, Illinois. Thank you, Mark.
Definitely. Thank you. And Bobby, I know that's a lot to digest for fans out there. There's so much good news. I mean, great news even that you could say is going on for the Longhorns right now. Is there anything else that Texas fans need to be aware of before we get out of here?
Well, I tell you, Aaron Hampton is flirting with Alabama, it seems like. The young man out of Dangerfield. I think that's one thing that you got to be aware of. Xavier Filsaime has Florida coming in home trying to keep him, and maybe perhaps ask him not to go to Texas this weekend. I think A&M's not just going to give up on Anthony Smith either. So, my take on this, Blake, is there always could be a slip up or a peel off at some point in time. But it looks like the majority are going in the right direction. And again, it's like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. This is one of those moments in time where Texas is, I said this earlier, they're on fire. I mean, Steve Sarkisian is on fire right now, and Longhorns are just getting it done.
No doubt about it. And signing day, early signing day, of course, 8 days away. So a lot's going to happen in those 8 days, Bobby. No doubt.
I mean, look, you got Kobe Black tomorrow. You got the visits over the weekend. You got the coaches on the road. Transfer portal in full effect. Longhorn team gets back at it on Saturday. They're just working weights this week mostly. So all these recruits, Blake, they'll get to see the team practice on Saturday, which is really cool because I've been there when that's happened. And you bring in recruits and they're seeing you participate and get ready for a bowl game. That's what all these guys want. Xavier Filsaime, he couldn't go watch Florida practice for a bowl. Just saying, you know.
Truth hurts.
Yep. And that's what I'm getting at. Those are unique times at a place, and especially when you're in the college football playoff. Especially when you're in the college football playoff.
Great time right now for the Longhorns and Longhorn fans.
Hey, Blake, before we say this, I want to ask you this. This is something that I've thought about and been thinking about the last, 24, 48 hours. When A&M signed, quote unquote, the greatest recruiting class ever, 2.5, 3 years ago, whenever it was, would you believe that Texas would be the first one to go to the national championship playoff instead of the Aggies? And Texas was 5-7.
Very true. Part of me says yes, and part of me says no, because A&M always seems to find a way to screw things up. So, I can believe it, but I can't believe it at the same time, Bobby.
I'm the same way. I mean, I just think about that. It's like it's twirling around in my head. Like you wouldn't have thought that.
No. And the general majority that watches college football, I don't think they would have either. There's no doubt about it. So very interesting to ponder. Lots to chew on here with all the news that you just brought, folks. And like we said, it's going to be an exciting next 8 days as we count down to early signing day. So, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. I want to thank Mark Saunders and, of course, the licensed Texas Allstate insurance agent. Be sure to check him out. And for Bobby Burton, I'm Blake Munroe, and we'll see you next time.
Hook 'em.